It is July 1940. In western Pennsylvania, summer preens like a peacock, flaunting its splendor and promise. Scattered throughout the hills near Portage in Cambria County are smaller villages. Sonman is one of them, with 400 people and one telephone. Nearly everyone in this area makes his living either directly or indirectly from the mines. Sonman Mine, with both a shaft and a slope, employs 1,200 men, most of them from Portage. The miners are tough, strong men. They set props, lay track, and load coal, breathing black dust till their lungs are destroyed. There is constant danger from accidents or rock falls. Ask a miner why on earth he works in a mine, he'd probably shrug and say, "I have to take care of my family." Sunday, he goes to church.
Hey, you going to the picnic today?
Yeah, our whole family's going.
It's annual picnic time for the miners and their families. A chance for fun, and they know how to have fun. Eating and drinking, playing and dancing till well after midnight. Sunday, life seemed good. Monday morning, the early shift of miners gathers at the Sonman slope. Joking a little, it is early for joking. That will come easier after the day's work, thinking of payday or a swim or a sweetheart.
That was some picnic class tonight. Boy, kids fell asleep before we got home. They was all worn out.
Yeah. Well, it was a good time last night, but me and my woman had a fight. She's still not talking to me this morning. I guess it was my fault. How about you, Stevie? Who was that girl you were dancing with, huh?
She's from Crescent. I got her right here. And I'm going up to see her Friday night.
Oh.
Where are you working today?
16 right, with Monteith.
Yeah, me too.
I'm in 17, and I better get going. I'm driving the ponies in today. Last week, old Mabel, she stole my shoe right out of my pocket. Yep, she's smarter than some operators I've seen.
The sun begins to rise over Ben's Creek and Cassandra. A train whistle wails a warning at a nearby crossing. Wait, wait, as the men, buddies, walk down the slope. The main heading into the Sonman Slope mine is like the main street in a town. Smaller numbered headings angle off to the right and left, about 500 feet apart, and between them are connecting passages called crosscuts. The men mine the coal in numbered rooms called the face. In 1940, pillars of coal are left in place to support the roof. All main and side headings are laid with rails. Overhead electric trolley wires conduct the power from outside. Every entrance also has an opening running parallel to it, used to ventilate all working places. Ventilation is provided by huge fans which draw fresh air through the main headings, into the workplaces, then through the mined-out rooms and back outside. However, in March 1940, a state mine inspector had discovered that fresh air was being drawn from the main headings through the mined-out places, picking up dangerous gas and blowing it into the working places. The superintendent was directed to build overcasts to correct this condition. That work was not completed by July 15th. Air is directed by wooden doors and by barriers called brattices, made of canvas, brick, or cement blocks. The first quarter mile down the slope is so steep that the men must walk, but where the terrain flattens out, a hoist lowers the cars farther into the mine. Here, the men climb into a coal car referred to as the man trip and ride about 2 miles to their work area in headings 16, 17, and 18. At the bottom of the slope is a mule barn. The drivers take turns herding the animals down a side heading. A driver from each crew meets the herd, harnesses his own team to the empty coal cars, and takes them to the face, where the men load them by hand. In the main heading, a man can stand erect, but most other places he has to bend over, sometimes even kneeling to shovel the coal, often working in water several inches deep. The coal seam is about 4 feet high. Sonman Mine is just beginning to use machinery. An electric-powered cutting machine digs a kerf about 6 inches high and 15 feet wide at the bottom of the seam. The men then blast the coal down and shovel it into the 2.5-ton coal cars. The mules or ponies take the cars to the side track in each section, and from there electric locomotives pull the loaded cars to the main heading and up to the level place. Here they are hoisted to the outside tipple where the coal is screened and cleaned by hand to remove the rock and waste. Finally, it is dumped into the railroad cars and hauled away to be sold. In heading 18 north, a crew works. 2 cutters, 10 loaders, and Howard Inman, pony driver.
Everything started out normal. Nothing to indicate there was going to be an explosion, of course. I was driving a pair of ponies at that time. Betty and Scott, I'll tell you their names. I had placed probably 2 rounds of cars up where they were loading them, up at the face. And I had taken the empties up, and we had a canvas door there. And I stopped the team, opened the door, and I heard the thunder.
The way the mine exploded, one of the places the cutters cut through into old workings. And when the men shot the coal down, it exposed a lot of roof. It caved in, and the gas came down from the cave, and since the air was blown over the workings, it pushed the gas onto the motor road, which was only 100 feet away. And when the motor came down, and the trolley pole arced on what they called the frog, which was the transfer trolley line, set off the explosion.
6 of us were working together. I was in the main heading and I saw a cutter coming out. Then I saw a flash of red and I yelled explosion. We all pushed ourselves in against the rib, and the blast rolled past us. It looked like fog, heavy fog. The air was bad and we had to get out.
I saw a flash and heard a loud noise and rumbling. Things started to fall all around us, and we started to run. Every place we went, it seemed too hot. It was hard to breathe, and we all got down on our stomachs, and the air seemed better down there. Finally, we made our way to the dip and were rescued. August? I think August got it.
Puncher Bill is dead. He was blowed right past me. The guys behind him in the heading are dead too. We crawled along with our faces as close to the floor as we could get them. I reached out and dipped my handkerchief in water and held it against my face. We could feel the air getting worse, but we knew we couldn't turn back. Puncher Bill was with us at first, but when the concussion came, he was blowed right past me. We couldn't go back. We found a small hole and tore at it. Finally, we got through.
The 5 survivors from heading 16 crawled over rock falls, through worked-out places to safety. Back in heading 18,
When the explosion happened, we all congregated up above, and we decided to build a bradish, and that didn't work out. Then we walked down ahead, and Stumpy George, he was burnt black. We went back up again. And That time the men were scared. Well, all of us, you know. Some showed it and some didn't. We tried to build this canvas bradish and it wasn't panning out, so I said, oh, I'm not going to die up here just sitting. So I took off by myself.
The fans were off, but miraculously, enough oxygen remained near the floor to enable Howard Inman to crawl halfway down the heading. Then, believing that they could all escape, he struggled back to persuade his friends to follow.
And that's when Wes and I went down and went clear out and told them to follow us. And if you see us laying, get back and do what you can for yourself. But we made it.
15 minutes later, the other 11 men came out, but Inman decided to help search heading 17.
I was hired by the Copper's Coal Company as a fire boss for the north side of the slope mine. And I examined the mine the day before the explosion. That was a Sunday. And I found the mine to be free of gas and bad roof. And I entered it, the mine to be safe in the record books. And I went home, and me and my wife went visiting. And since I was on the second shift, we come back Monday around noon. About a half hour after I got home, my mother, that lived only a block away, come running, stumbling, and crying. She told me that the Sonman Mine exploded and that Brother Joe was in it. So I ran back up to the mine, and when I got to the mine office, the superintendent told me to go back home and put my work clothes on to get ready to go back into the mine and help the rescue.
Sonman Mine had no trained rescuers, but an expert team quickly arrived from Revlock.
We're just a tool for that mine. We have two purposes. Find the survivors and rescue them if we can, and determine the physical condition of the mine. We loaded up our stuff and they took us down to a place, a shanty they called 16 Right. And we sat there from about 12:15 till 5:45, 6 o'clock. And there was no backup crew for us. That was a procedure, I guess, and I don't know who established that rule, but I was just 24 years old when that happened. I was just a rookie at that time. And, but they told us that you can't proceed with another exploration until there's a backup. You have a crew backing you up.
3 men in the main north dip escaped with slight burns. The men working on the south slope were brought out right after the explosion, but Nick DiPola and Andy Muha were asked to go in with the rescue team to bring in the fresh air.
The rescue team was there from Revlock and Culver, waiting to go in the mine, waiting for the inspector. One inspector come, no, they won't go in. They said wait for the other inspector. The other inspector, they said you're going in? No, we're waiting for the one from Pittsburgh. By the time we waited outside, it was about between 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock before the guy come from Pittsburgh, and he says, okay, let's go in.
We went into on the first sortie there, they called it, and we didn't go too far, and we found there was a fella face down on a track switch. When we went up for the first victim, where we found the first victim, the carbon monoxide level was 0.42, which is fatal in 10 seconds. And we went a little further and we found another fella, but he was, oddly, he was going the other way, reverse, and we presumed that he saw his buddy go down and he turned and started back up the other way, but he didn't go too far. He was dead. But we were we were only allowed to go 300 feet. And we got a rope, we have what they call a lifeline, and it's a rope that you carry, and whenever you're at 300 feet, they give you a signal to stop. Well, they give us a signal, but we had spotlights on. And maybe 50, 75 feet up the entry, we saw the guy sitting there like he was eating dinner. He had his dinner bucket between his legs, and he was sitting down. We thought he was eating lunch. So we signaled to go on up to get him. We got up there and he was dead. And right around the corner from where he was sitting was a dead mule. And in that place was a car partly loaded with coal, and there was a shovel in the one side of the car. There was just a shovel there, but on the other side there was another victim in there.
And when I got up, not too far, there was 6 or 7 bodies laying, and one of them was a good friend of mine, John Trunack. So when I seen that, I said, "That's it. They're all dead." And I left. And I got out about 10, 11 o'clock that night.
When we went in that mine and got down 18 right, the first men we found was Ted Pittman, Shaw, and Stump George at a door that was busted open. And then we set them on the side. Guys was coming back of us. Then this boss said to us, "Now you just string up the canvas." So these guys brought 100 yards of canvas. We would have to string it up, come back, wait till the air went up. When the air went up, maybe sit down for 20 minutes, half an hour. They would go up with a safety lamp, a canary. Okay, put another 100 yards up. We did that till we went up and hit where the 32 miners was braddished in. And when we get up there, they says, "Stop, break a hole in there."
They found the men all lined up along the roadway, dead. So they waited. That was 8 o'clock that afternoon. So they waited another 2 hours for the air to clear, that the rescue men, that volunteers, could go up without any gas masks to haul the men out. So I went up, and I went up along the bodies to see if my brother was there. And when I came up to my brother, he was dead, so I couldn't take it anymore.
And when I stepped inside that bradish, the first 3 guys I seen laying there was Mr. Seymour and his 2 sons, one beside each other.
Land lies sweetly in the mountains, valleys lead to sun-drenched slopes. Summer's heat is cooled with rains, hill folk live on dreams and hopes. He is proud, the bride he once knew, head bowed praise upon her knees. Sons like stair-steps down the pew, clear-eyed, anxious for release. Sunday life seems good. Next day dawns another story. They must never have to know. Toil that holds so little glory, pits where men should never go. Crawling, clawing, shooting, colas, squealing, rats and crumbling walls, trapped inside a deadly hole where no one answers frantic calls. Dear God, grant that when his sons die, they are not beside him here. Huddled hopelessly they all lie, sadly praying through their fear. Monday, life
10:50 a.m. Explosion occurred. Built barricade at 11:45. 2 p.m. Ears were ringing. Head was aching to beat hell. 4 o'clock. Am now parked right here. I believe it's all up. 4:35. Jim Monteith, the foreman, is in bad shape. The boys are going to sleep very easily, only all nervous. 4:45. They're going fast now. Men are moving, all weak as cats.
Dear Louise, take good care of my 2 little kids and pray for me. Tell Junior to go to school and be a good Catholic. There is $1 under the rug in the living room. Tell Betty to be a good girl. I'm going fast. Please pray for me. I am going to die. Louise.
There's very little noise. Everybody just waiting. It is now 10 till 1. Nobody's allowed to sleep. The men are trying to convince themselves help will arrive any minute. It must soon arrive. It is now 10 minutes till 3. All praying for help. I think we're going to go. Everybody drowsy. Everybody passing out, hoping and praying.
Me and my woman had a fight. She's still not talking to me this morning. I guess it was my fault.
Hello, Mom and Jade, Irma. It was tough sledding. I am so weak I can hardly dig. Tell Irma I loved her. I loved you too.
I say goodbye to all my friends. May God give you health and strength and spare you from the agony I have.
My husband was one of the ones that were killed in the Sonman explosion. And he was revived by his son, Richard, and he was 13 months old.
About 11:30 Monday morning, the alarm sounded. Several thousand people hurried to stand at the mine entrance and wait, and wait, and wait. No official announcement was made, but the 21 men who escaped from the North Slope told their tales. Besides family and friends, the crowd included clergymen, first aid teams, the Red Cross, and Salvation Army. All day they waited.
What I remember most about that night was the silence. All those people, and it was so quiet. A cough, a sob, and silence.
And it started to rain, and I was looking out the window, and it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I wasn't sleeping. I was praying and crying and everything. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, there was a man came, and there was an intersection right above the house, and he got in the middle of the street, and he put his hands out like this, and he said, "They're all dead, every one of them."
The task of bringing out the victims fell to their co-workers. The job was completed by 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. The fire hall served as a morgue. There, the bodies were washed and identified, then transported to their own homes until the time for the funerals. The explosion left 34 widows and 108 fatherless children. 3 parallel investigations began immediately. Federal, state, and Coppers Coal Company inspectors examined the mine, then called witnesses to confirm their findings. The reports were used as evidence when Cambria County Coroner Patrick McDermott conducted a public inquest at Portage Moose Home August 14th and 15th. The verdict in part was that Freeman George and the 62 others met their deaths by asphyxiation due to an explosion on July 15, 1940, the gas being ignited by a trolley locomotive. The ignition was superinduced by the failure of the system of mining and negligence of the officials directly in charge of mine management. The superintendent, foreman, and assistant foreman were each fined $100.
And there was talk that we were going to get a lot of money, and they were going to do this, and they were going to. I lived on $40 a month for a couple years. That's all I got.
Anne taught herself to sew to supplement her income until her son was 12 years old and she could work outside her home.
I'm still glad that we have each other, because that's what means a lot, you know. But he looks exactly like my husband.
The year was 1940, the day July 15. As miners bid their wives goodbye to dig the coal beneath. They worked the mine called Sonman when a siren shrieked a blast. It signaled an explosion of deadly methane gas. Now there's 63 men down beneath the ground. My God, we've got to bring them out to their families safe and sound. Now there's 63 men down beneath the ground. My God, we've got to bring them out to their families safe and sound. Tell your mama not to cry, her Stanley's still alive. From number 16 he did crawl, on a 5 who did survive. But lady, don't you weep, your true love's here to keep. You'll be warm within his arms tonight, he's been pulled out from the deep. Still there's 63 men down beneath the ground. My God, we've got to bring them out to their families safe and sound. Still there's 63 men down beneath the ground. My God, we've got to bring them out to their families safe and sound. The rescue workers came and were ready to assist. Bringing air to the men below, it was first upon their lips. The threat of another explosion caused their hearts to pound with fear. Some miners worked their way inside, called their friends, but they did not hear. Still there's 63 men down beneath the ground. My God, we've got to bring them out to their families safe and sound. Still there's 63 men down beneath the ground. My God, we've got to bring them out to their families safe and sound. When they arrived, 63 bodies dead inside. Father and son and brother and friend, arm in arm till the bitter end. Leaving notes I'll never send, forgive me. They used the local fire hall as a temporary morgue to identify the bodies and ready them for home. The church aisles all are filled with the caskets of the dead as the town begins to mourn its loss and the tears they never end. Now there's 63 men buried beneath the ground. They worked for the good of mankind, now their souls are heaven bound. Now there's 63 men buried beneath the ground. They worked for the good of mankind, now their souls are heaven bound. Now there's 63 men buried beneath the ground. They worked for the good of mankind, now their souls are heaven bound. Now there's 63 men buried beneath the ground. They worked for the good of mankind, now their souls are heaven bound.